It's back to school time for voters. Study now. The test will be here before we know it. A fire chief talks about stepping away from the work that he loves, hoping that more of his fellow firefighters will survive it. You can just Google what kind of winter Colorado is in for, but that's about as reassuring as Googling your rash. And what a relief to hear that the Coloradan who set a worldwide swimming record has the same bad habit as the rest of us. That's next. We cover state government and politics around here every day, and still, when that blue book showed up in my mailbox recently, I was like, "Aw, man, not this already." But it's time to study up, because there will be a quiz, and it is pass-fail. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger is your study buddy.
In November, everyone in the state will have at least 2 issues to vote on. These should come as no surprise. We warned you about them when the legislative session ended in May. One is called Proposition CC. Should the state override the Taxpayer Bill of Rights and keep taxes it might have to refund to you to spend on schools and roads, at least initially? How it's spent could be changed by future lawmakers. The other is called Proposition DD. Should Colorado legalize sports betting with a 10% tax on proceeds to fund Colorado's water plan? So why are these called propositions and have letters? Let's flash back to my favorite magnet garage from last year. Propositions change state statute. The letter means it was referred to us to vote on by state lawmakers at the Capitol. This story focuses on the money from Proposition CC. A yes vote means you're okay with the state keeping more money than it's currently allowed to keep. A no vote keeps statewide TABOR refunds in place. This is the digital version of the Blue Book. The real one has either arrived in your mailbox or will shortly. According to this Blue Book, a yes vote on CC means the state would get to keep $310 million next year and $342 million the year after. That's an estimated $650 million more the state would keep for schools and roads instead of refunding back to residents. Or is it? These dollar amounts are really a moving target. Imagine a sales job where your income changes based on your success. Some years better, other years not so much. How do you plan ahead? Probably the same type of guessing that the state has to do. The dollar amounts in your Blue Book are from a budget projection back in June, basically guessing what the state will make over the next 2 years. Well, just last week, those guesstimates changed and went down. Instead of $650 million over those 2 years, the new budget outlook now calls for $400 million. So why is the Blue Book not fully accurate? The state constitution requires that they're mailed to us more than 30 days before an election. The people at the Capitol responsible for the Blue Books tell me they had to send it to the printer by September 11th to be able to mail 2.1 million Blue Books to all of us in time. It just so happened that a week after that printing is when these numbers fluctuated. And they could change back. It's just like guessing your own budget over the course of a year. Maybe you're going to make more in investments than you thought you were. Maybe you make less.
I mean, they're not going to nail it every year. There's got to be like a margin of error, right?
But it's $250 million. That seems like a lot, right?
Yeah, it does seem like a lot,
The margin of error for a $15 billion state budget is 1 to 3% that they're cool with.
Okay.
And $250 million is within the 1 to 3% margin of error, which is $100 to $300 million, so I'm told. That's fair game.
Nailed it. They nailed it. Just $250 million off. Thank you, Marshall. So the city of Denver opted for green over blue last election. They did not mail out those blue books to everybody. You had to ask for one. Otherwise, they put the info online for you. Now, they could only get away with that in Denver because there weren't any debt or tax measures on the ballot last year. The state constitution requires that they mail out a guide in those years. So Denver is once again mailing blue books this year. And the new clerk and recorder, Paul Lopez, who used to be on city council, apparently he's the old school type and plans to return to mailing out blue books every election, even when they're not required by law. Our next question comes from a viewer named Bob. Curious why, if the city and the county of Denver are the same area, why the city and county of Denver need both a police department and a sheriff's department. Bob, 2 different functions. Sheriff's department, solely in charge of overseeing the jail and transportation of inmates. Police department handles the roads, public safety, patrols, crashes, criminal investigations, and all that stuff. The police department and the sheriff's department in Denver, they split in 1902 and 1903, according to the smart folks at the library. And the police still had some control over the Denver jail until 1968, when they handed over the keys, so to speak. There are the obvious risks of being a firefighter, and then there's the invisible one, the one that's impacting 9 South Metro firefighters this year alone. All of them have been diagnosed with cancer. The department's trying to shift its culture to address that invisible danger. Some of the changes are simple. Wearing dirty gear after a fire used to be a badge of honor for a job well done. Now it's known that that actually keeps carcinogens too close to the skin, so firefighters try to wash off as soon as possible. One man pushing this culture change is the former operations chief at South Metro. He cared about this long before we met him a year and a half ago.
The doctors know that I'll die from this cancer. We hope that I'll get lucky and it'll be, farther out into the future. But most likely, I won't live past another 10 to 15 years.
Assistant Chief of Operations Troy Jackson has now officially stepped down. His cancer is relentless. It's spread to his hip and his heart. Today, he told us he leaves the job confident that he made an impact.
Most of my life has been associated with the fire service. We didn't get to pick the plan, and we're just kind of along for the ride. So, my name is Troy Jackson, and I'm the former Ops Chief of South Metro Fire Rescue. Last time we talked, I was going through a bunch of clinical trials trying to find something that could help not only myself but other cancer patients. Since then, my cancers just really became angry, and we've kind of ran out of treatment options. I think people are really embracing the culture shift of, you can still be a macho firefighter and have clean gear. And it's evolving fairly quickly with the way apparatus are designed, the way stations are designed. It means a lot that we're starting to see that shift, and ultimately we won't know, and I may never get to see the impact that it has on the fire service in South Metro. The amount of exposure I had and the type of cancer that I have, it's almost always caused by environmental factors. I've had 6 years to really spend quality time with our family, and I think about my kids a lot, watching them grow. Super proud of them. It was definitely time for me to pass it off to somebody with more energy, and I'm walking out the door knowing that I had an impact on this organization and on the community.
Jackson is still going through treatment, hoping that he can slow down his cancer. And he's still going to the office on occasion to help the new ops chief get settled. The Denver Teachers Union, fresh off of its strike and its biggest win in decades, is getting a new leader tomorrow. Tiffany Choi, a French teacher at East High School, was elected as the new president of the Denver Classroom Teachers Association. She defeated the incumbent president, Henry Roman, who led that union for a decade. Choi played a large role in the teacher strike in February when the Denver public school teachers picketed and won higher pay. A vote in April between Choi and Roman was too close to call, so the union held another vote earlier this month. Choi is going to step away from her classroom role so she can lead the teachers union. Relying on raw information you find on the internet is a great way to convince yourself that your rash is going to kill you. And it's a good way to get confused about the long-term forecast for Colorado's winter as well. So as we head into the snowy season and predictions abound, meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen has suggestions on how we can sift through all the winter forecasts we find online.
This is a 10-day winter weather forecast model. All the rage online these days. Some sites are even free of charge. They show you possible locations for incoming storms and even snow accumulation forecasts 10 days in advance. In some offices, though, you've got to pay the snow troll for even talking about a day 10 snowfall forecast. You won't hear 9 Newsmets commenting on them. For one, it's a good way to hex an awesome storm. But really, snow 10 days away pans out less than 30% of the time. So between days 7 and 10, look but don't touch. This period is only useful for picking up on storm trends. Even inside of 10 days, there needs to be consistency on different models at least 3 times in a row to be considered for public use. They are fun to look at, just tread with caution. And I'll go ahead and throw a buck in the bucket for talking about it on Next tonight.
She just survived cancer, so she thought, why not?
I just completed a 4-way English Channel crossing, and I was the first person to ever do that.
Sarah Thomas, fresh off her latest world record, comes back to Next to tell us why she sets out to do the impossible, and she reveals the bad habits she shares with so many of us. And 7 semis full of sheep, the most Colorado thing we've seen today. Next. The most Colorado thing we've seen today is a flocked up situation in the high country. Sheep. 7 semis full of sheep. Next viewer named Laura Lee spotted them on Shrine Ridge Trail between Vail and Copper Mountain. They shut down the parking lot with that sign to make sure that the semi trucks could come in to haul away all of those sheep. This is the time of year that sheep are being moved down from their summer pastures. Going to move to a different spot for the fall and the winter months. What's the most Colorado thing you've seen lately? Share it with us by emailing next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext.
Thank you, EWE, for running an animal story before weather. How about this first day of fall? The high cirrus deck in place made it look cooler than it was. Our temperature today at 82 is above the average of 75, a place that we're going to sit for most of this week. All eyes on southwestern Colorado as an area of low pressure in Phoenix, which brought a tornado to that city today. Hail and 3 inches of rain brings all of that cloud cover to Denver and maybe a little snow way up high to the southern mountains. That's the best shot for precipitation, frozen or otherwise. It'll be in the southwestern corner of the state. Denver, the Front Range, and eastern plains will say goodbye to the clouds tonight. Lots of sunshine tomorrow and a warm weather trend that will last the week. A cold front coming in on Friday, and that's when things change. It'll look and feel a little more like fall heading into the weekend. Partly cloudy, 53 tonight. Sunshine, 84 on Tuesday. Temperatures 5 to 10 degrees above average all week with a chance for showers and highs in the 60s and 70s at the end of the week. Beautiful weekend coming up. And remember, if you're out and about on the road less traveled, make sure and send those pictures in. Take us along with you.
Thank you, Kathy. Paul Reinertson did not work at this TV station. He works across the street at Channel 7. He told the stories of Colorado for nearly 20 years there. And then, as people do, he faded from public view. But he continued to shape stories for generations, working as a journalism professor at Metro State University. Had tremendous impact on many, including Next editor Jeff Sawtelle.
You know, if you're really lucky, you have that one teacher that honestly changes your life. You know, Paul Reinertson was that teacher for me and for a lot of other aspiring journalists at Metro State. And he was a huge part of us getting our student-run newscast off the ground in 2002, and it's still going strong 17 years later. The first few semesters that we were on the air, he was guiding a bunch of clueless kids on how to even focus the cameras. You know, he'd sit in the booth and offered advice to the directors, to the audio operators, to everyone. Paul would follow us into the field on stories, not to interfere, but just to be there if we needed advice or had questions, or even if we just needed help carrying a tripod. Paul impacted a lot of students during his 7 years at Metro, and I know I can speak for the entire early group when I say that he is a huge part of how we got jobs where we did. But that impact on my career isn't why it hit me so hard when I heard that he'd passed away last week. Paul was more than a teacher. He was a friend. He was a confidant. He was the person we would all come to when we were feeling overworked, stressed out, when we just felt that we weren't good enough. He was always there to listen. He was our biggest cheerleader, not just in TV, but in life. After he left teaching at Metro, Paul would regularly meet up with us. Not to see how our jobs were doing, but to see how we were doing. He genuinely cared about all of us, and that made all of us better people. So thank you, Paul. I am where I am, and I am who I am because of you, because of who you were without even trying.
No one's invincible, but Sarah Thomas might be close.
We started in England, and then we swam to France, and then back to England, and then back to France, and then we finished in England.
So, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a long way.
She's beaten cancer. She has all of these world records for swimming. We'll ask why she keeps going. Next. Whenever I see Colorado's Sarah Thomas swimming and still swimming in pursuit of another endurance record, I just wonder how she does it. Like, what is behind that passion? What's behind that push? What's behind it, she told our Byron Reed, are her people.
I've always been a swimmer.
Getting support from people who care.
I started when I was pretty little.
Can be all the motivation it takes to follow a dream.
I was first on a swim team when I was 7, and then just kind of kept at it. It's always been something I loved.
Sarah Thomas is an ultramarathon swimmer and says for the past few years, she's had an idea growing in her mind.
I would say I'm kind of a chronic procrastinator, actually. I kind of do everything at the last minute.
Sarah's goal was to swim the English Channel.
I've done some longer swims in the past, and it was just kind of next on the list of a challenge that I thought would be hard.
It was a goal that Sarah almost didn't get a chance to see through.
I was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer, stage 2, in November of 2017.
She says while she was undergoing treatment, it was swimming that got her through it.
And knowing that I had this goal and this dream out there really kind of got me up off the couch, got me in the pool, kept me in the water.
And last week, Sarah followed through on a promise.
It took me 54 hours and 10 minutes.
By swimming the English Channel 4 times.
We started in England, and then we swam to France, and then back to England, and then back to France, and then we finished in England. And I was the first person to ever do that.
During the swim, Sarah says she got no sleep, but got nourishment through mixed drinks, apple juice, baby food, and M&Ms.
Through the hard times, my crew definitely pulled me through, and they were just encouraging the whole way.
Encouragement, Sarah says, that gave her inspiration.
It's really important to, keep sight of things that are important to you.
To make sure her dream came true.
The same people that were supporting me during my swim are the same people that were supporting me during cancer. And, really lucky to have such good people in my life.
For Next, I'm Byron Reed.
Toast. Sarah says she had a pretty intense 4 years, so she and her husband are just going to relax. And by relax, they're going to go hiking and fishing and camping and just, take a breather. And after that, she says she's sure there will be something. There will be a free public performance of the play Exploring Gentrification in this city. We told you about Bobby Lefebure's North Side play this summer. That was before Bobby became Colorado's poet laureate. Well, now he's big time, and his play is going to be performed free to the public at La Raza Park Saturday at 6:30 in the evening. It is a sign that not much is going right. That and your feedback next. It's a sign. You don't have to follow directions on misspelled signs. That's actually the law, and that's why everybody's ignoring the direction to Parallel Park at this lot in Keystone. Our viewer Mike caught it. Hey, listen, you want people to Parallel Park, spell it correctly next time. Send your signs to next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext. Some of your little-known favorite things in Colorado tonight. Susie says the free walking tour in Manitou Springs where you can walk around and try the different spring waters. Frank loves the double sunsets for the foothills and then for the actual horizon. And Carl says his favorite little-known thing is the food truck in the parking lot at the liquor store near the Walmart in Rifle. That is little known indeed. See you next time.